Say God of fulfillment. I didn't believe that you believed it. Say it again, God of fulfillment. How many of you serve a God, like Patty said, who's going to start a work and finishes it? Then why are you sitting around crying in the middle when things start to look a little bit shaky? You should know better. You do know better. Eli, give me my first set of verses. Now, when Jesus was risen, early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. And she went and told them that had been with him, them being the disciples, as they mourned and wept. And when they had heard that he was alive and had been seen, believed her not. It would have been one thing if the resurrection was a surprise. It would have been one thing if the crucifixion was something they didn't know was going to happen. But I found at least 3 places earlier in Mark wherever Jesus told him the plan that they had. The first one is going to be in Mark 8:31 and 32. Eli, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and he rejected of the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. So he told him once, but when he told them, when he spake that saying openly, Peter took him and began to rebuke him. Jesus said, guys, this is what's going to happen to me. I want you to be ready. And Peter said, don't talk like that, Jesus. That's not going to happen. And my next one is in Mark 9:30 through 32. And they departed thence, again, them being the disciples, and passed through Galilee, and he would not that any man should know it. For he taught his disciples and said unto them, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and after that he is killed, he shall rise the 3rd day. But they understood not that saying, and were afraid to ask him. You see, Jesus told them again because he figured they didn't get it the first time just a chapter ago, but this time they said, I don't really know what he's saying, but I don't know, Jesus is kind of weird like that. It must be a parable. I'm not going to ask about it because it must not be that important. And then over in Mark 10, chapter 10, verses 32 through 34. And they were in the way going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus went before them. And they were amazed as they followed. They were afraid. And he took again the 12 and began to tell them what things should happen unto him. Again, he says, I have to let them know so they're not surprised, saying, behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be delivered unto the chief of priests and unto the scribes, and then they shall condemn him to death, and shall deliver him to the Gentiles, and they shall mock him, and shall scourge him, and shall spit upon him, and shall kill him. And the 3rd day he shall rise again. Pause my timer. They get this time. They're not taking mine. Over. It's not over. It's not over, and I know better because I'm right in the middle. The crucifixion has happened, and he's been laying in the grave 3 days, but it's not over. I'm not going to be like Peter, James, and John who sit there and cry about it whenever things start to look a little bit hairy. I'm not going to be the one who forgets the worst of it. I'm going to remember and see the worst of it. I'm going to remember the promise that he gave me. Eli, give me my verse back. They shall mock him, and shall scourge him, and shall spit upon him, and shall kill him. This has already happened. So if Jesus has told you what's going to happen, and the worst of it's come, but he gave you that little colon here to let you know it's just a pause and not the end, because on the 3rd day he's going to rise again. Why on earth in Mark 16, I think it's number 10, are they sitting around and crying about it? Because this is already Sunday. I can understand being sad on Friday. I can understand being a little bit down on Saturday, but it's Sunday because he's already appeared to Mary and they're still crying about it. Pipe down. Calm down. I'm not done. I only got 7 minutes total. Because you'd like to think that you are the disciples, but I'm telling you that God's told you something is going to happen in your life, and he's put something down deep inside of you, and you were excited about the prophecy whenever you were given it, but it's a little bit hairy, and now you're crying about it. Or even worse, God told you your marriage is going to be restored. But like Peter, over in chapter 8, you turn around and say, God, you don't even know what's going on. You sit there and you argue with him. God told you, Michelle, you're supposed to be on the worship team, but you say, now, God, I don't worship like that. I'm afraid. You spend too much time arguing and not enough time listening. And if Peter would have kept his mouth shut, he might have known what was happening on Sunday. And then worse than arguing, because arguing means that you had some idea of what was going on. You might be like chapter 9 for the disciples, where Jesus told you what he wants to do in your life, or he tells you to move, he tells you to do something, but you don't quite understand it. And instead of praying, instead of seeking him in his word, instead of seeking your purpose, you decide to just keep quiet and pretend like you ain't got nothing to do because you didn't understand it the first time he called you. Worse than that, because chapter 10 gets nasty too. You might understand it this time, but he's calling you and he's telling you, but you choose to just ignore it completely. You don't have a response because you aren't listening the way you should be. The way that you end up crying in chapter number 33 is because you've spent, or chapter number, oh my goodness, Mark 16, verse 10. Why you're crying is because you weren't listening the way you should have been. If you had been listening instead of arguing or pretending you didn't understand or ignoring, you wouldn't have any reason for tears. You wouldn't have any reason to be mourning in the middle, because you would know that Sunday's already come and your victory's been had and what he said is going to come to pass. I really wanted to be the first bell. I'm not going to lie to you.
Can somebody